It's Sunday, June 27, 2021. This is episode 190, Refinance with Better and the $6,000 AmEx credit. This is 39.6 Facebook and YouTube Live Finance Show, the show that teaches high earners like yourselves how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. We talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, paying for college, paying for childcare, and even the car you drive. Today's episode, we are going to discuss the home refi process with Better and this current promotion they have for jumbo mortgages of $6,000 with your AmEx. All right, it's been a while. It's been a very busy month over here at 39.6. This might be as busy a month as we've ever had. Moved out of our house, moved into an apartment, rented out our house, bought a house, refinanced a house, sold a rental property, and baby's gonna come anytime. So it's been absolutely crazy. Oh, and then we also raised millions of dollars for a fund, and we closed out that fund, and we'll be investing in that deal, or actually we already invested into the deal, and it will be closing this week. So this has been a very busy month of June and May. So here we are catching up. We're going to probably go a little bit retrograde and discuss the most recent stuff first. On Friday, it's 2 days ago now. It seems like it's been longer than that, but just 2 days ago, we closed on our home refi on our new home that we closed on May 10th. So we closed, and within a week, I already submitted to refinance and rate shopped. Getting to closing was a big pain, as it often is. We had done a 30-day period from contract to close, and we used a local bank, which helped us get it done a little sooner, but they were still very difficult to work with, and had a really high interest rate. I was told that they have the best rates in town, but I mean, maybe they do in town, but it was like 0.5% higher than what we got when we refinanced. So basically, we had to close that deal out and then just refinance immediately. But here in Texas, the cost to refinance can be pretty high because of the cost of the closing costs with title and whatnot. And so that always becomes the rate limiting, at least financially rate limiting step is it worth it to refinance? Even if you can drop your rate down, it costs potentially a lot of money to do that. And so, we run the numbers and see what it looks like, how long it'll take to break even. I had heard about Better, actually not that long ago, only within the past few months from a friend who had refinanced with them either this year or last year, said the process overall was pretty easy. Ours was not, but I've also heard other people have very relatively easy processes, but our finances are a lot more complicated. Okay, but when I go look for refinancing, I look at what terms, rates can I get with the least cash out of pocket. I, in general, never pay points into a mortgage because that's an unrecoverable cost. That's extra cash. I don't like my principal balance going up unless I'm getting like money back. A lot of times people will sell people on refinancing and they'll say, hey, look, we can refinance and you're not going to have to bring any money to close. And then you are going to have less monthly payment per month. And that sounds great, but without looking at the principal balance of the mortgage, you have to know if your principal's increasing, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll roll in all those closing costs added on top of the mortgage. And now if you were to pay off your house within the next 6 months or so or sell it, you could be paying more money and basically losing money on the refinance. The refinance would make sense if you hold on to it for the duration of the loan. But if you sell it, then it's the principal balance that matters more than just the interest rate, because you're not paying interest once you sell the property. Okay, so I look at what's the lowest out of pocket cash and what rate can I get there. Okay, because I never really know how long I'm going to hold on to a property. And I want to be able to potentially do this as often as possible without having to lose that sunk cost of paying down points. So I had looked at rates from various places. I had gone on to Better, and they basically give you a long menu of options. You know, your rate would be based on how much cash you bring to closing. And these are estimates. When I first made my account with Better, it looked like a really easy process. But the problem was I had just sold my property or just bought the property, and my address did not show up in the records from like my credit report or other things. So I could only put on my previous property, but that was not the house I was refinancing with. And so I had to talk to them on the phone, and they had to show me this workaround to get my current property on there. So now I actually have two accounts with Better, one for my old house and one for my new house, even though my old house didn't matter. It was just the one that it defaulted to because that's what shows up on my name. So that was kind of an annoying workaround that we had to deal with. But that got straightened out. Customer service actually for Better is actually very reasonably good as opposed to a lot of companies. They are all online, right? So their entire business is online, but every single person I spoke to was in America and actually had a reasonable understanding of the entire process, or at least what I was dealing with. And I was honestly quite impressed by their customer service. I think that if they don't have reasonable customer service, their entire company it wouldn't hold up. So it looks like that they've put effort in having good customer service representatives on the phone, but you do have a different customer service rep or like person assigned to you for each stage of the process. One is like picking out your loan, one is submitting your application, one is during underwriting, and one is during closing. And that's a little bit annoying because you don't have like one person of contact throughout the whole process, but they tend to be pretty responsive, and you can call them and get somebody on the phone usually within a couple of minutes every time without having to go through like a bunch of prompts. Actually, I don't think I ever typed in any prompts on their phone number. You always answer directly to somebody when they pick up the phone. Okay, so first we had to get that straightened out with the address. Then I had all the options. Then for some reason, when we put in all the numbers, my loan to value ratio based on my previous closing was like 79% or 79.5% instead of 80%. And so what happened was it didn't meet the 80% loan to value criteria. And so my rates were a lot higher than I thought they were going to be. So then I had to talk to them about it. And I was like, well, I don't mind bringing a little bit of cash to closing to get to 80% loan to value, and that will get my numbers down. And so once they finangled the numbers, which I couldn't do on my end, it would have been nice if I could have changed my loan to value ratio on my own, but it doesn't allow you to do that. But I had them override that portion, and it all was included on the closing disclosure, which shows all the numbers. But they had to do that on their end. Once they did that, then I could see all my rates for 30-year, 15-year, whatever I wanted to look for, and the rates had gone down a lot. And so I had ended up focusing on one rate for 30, which was 3.125%. And the closing costs were going to be relatively nominal. It looked like it was going to be a couple, maybe $3,000 or so. Maybe actually, initially it's probably going to be higher. My entire cash to close is probably going to be over $10,000. That was because I had to bring some cash to pay down the principal. But they had $9,000 of lender credits on that option. So the lender credits help pay for a lot of those closing costs. Now, in Texas, you can't get any cash back when you refinance a property within 6 months of buying it. So you can't do like a cash out refi. So you still have to bring cash to the table. So the way it works is if there's extra credits, they have to get applied somewhere, and they can basically be applied to the principal of the mortgage. But once we focus on that rate, then they say, you know, all you have to do are 14 tasks, and then you can lock in your rate. So, and the guy called me up because I hadn't done it immediately. And he's like, do you have any questions about it? And so I had basically gotten to fix all those issues I had with the loan to value ratio. Got that, and then by the next day, submitted all those 14 things. And then you pay with your credit card $550 to lock it in, and then they schedule the appraisal. Now, I was hoping that they would be able to use my previous appraisal because it's only a month old. But because this was a jumbo mortgage, a big jumbo mortgage, they were not going to do this without a new appraisal. Fortunately, I was able to get the appraisal scheduled very fast. This was actually one of the nice things. It was scheduled within, I think within a week and a half. It was scheduled pretty fast. So as soon as the lease back from the previous owner was done, which was May 31st, I had the appraiser scheduled for like June 1 to go in there and appraise the property. And he was there for like 2 hours in the morning, got all his pictures and everything. Because we're going to do a renovation to the master bath and the master suite, I guess, and kitchen, like basically a demo of both. And you can't really get an appraisal when you're demoing the house. So luckily we were able to get that scheduled the day before the demo was going to be done. Demo started June 2. So I got all that done. And then I had to go through all the underwriting and everything else. Now, those 14 things, which were upload a handful of documents, whatever, I got that done. And I thought that was going to be like most of the stuff, but that was like really a teaser. That was really just the very beginning. I mean, they make you sign a bunch of documents, electronically sign a bunch of documents, upload things. You pay the $550. And once I got past that phase, we got to underwriting. Then it was, you log on and it says, oh, there are X number of tasks. Like in this picture on the left side, if you actually see it, it's pretty small, but it says there is one task for me in green. It's right over here. It says one task. And here I'm showing, it says, here's what you can focus on today. And it'll have tasks. And it might have like 1 task, 2 tasks, 10 tasks. Often I thought that I was getting close to being done. And then as soon as I did that, then the next day there'd be like another 10 or another 10, another 10, sometimes 1. And they'd come back so fast. It was really annoying. I don't know how many tasks in total. There were probably over 100 tasks. But this was the one task that I was very excited to do. It says, here's what you can focus on today. There can be a lot to take care of. So we created this list of all the tasks across every category. Take care of this, and you'll be on the right track. So to access this offer, submit your American Express card you'd like to get a statement credit on. If you're an eligible American Express card member, you can get a $6,000 statement credit when you refinance or finance your home purchase by 12/17/22. Here are some things to keep in mind. The borrower or co-borrower must be on the mortgage. The borrower or co-borrower must be the basic account holder of a personal consumer American Express card. The names of the borrower and co-borrowers, if any, and the account number entered below will be shared with American Express. The final eligibility determination will be made after. Okay, so I filled out that task, put in my AmEx card. I have an AmEx Plat, and actually we have multiple AmEx cards. So I put in my AmEx Plat, I put that in, seemed to go through, and I'll give a shout out to my buddy Brian from Fellowship Residency. I was just randomly texting him, and he was telling me about this because I don't keep up with AmEx offers. I don't look at my credit card promotions. If something's good, I feel like someone will tell me about it, or I'll find out somehow else. But I had not heard about this. This is gigantic, $6,000. This is like extreme mega couponing, right? Like, I don't know what else gives you $6,000. People talk about credit card reward hacks and getting 100,000 miles. I mean, 100,000 miles getting a credit card is like, depending on how much you value a credit card mile or point, it could be, let's say, 2.5 points per cent or dollar. I mean, 100,000 miles or points could be like $2,500. Often it's more like 2 or down to 1. So it could be like $1,000. But this is $6,000 of actual cash as a credit. And it just shows up on your card as basically a rebate, I guess. I don't think it's taxable, although I don't know if they issue a 1099 for a credit card reimbursement, because technically they're not reimbursing you for something. I don't know how this is going to pan out. to be honest with you. But it's still $6,000. It's a ton. And I was fortunate because often when these promotions come out, and this promotion had come out like 3 weeks ago, and he had told me like a couple days later, and I had messaged my person on Better. I was like, hey, can I get in on this? I had emailed him. And then the next day I saw this thing pop up on here. So it was new. I don't know if it was going to pop up on here anyway, if I didn't ask. But often, if you're already in the process of something and a promotion comes out, they often don't grandfather you into the promotion because you weren't in it during the eligibility period when it started. But it seemed to be okay here. And I still have a little bit of, lack of confidence that it would actually go through, because it just says it here and says your final determination will be determined later. But when I get to the last part of this, when I actually get to closing, now getting to closing took weeks. Like, I cannot believe how much financial information they asked for and asked for and asked for. Now, they ask you for your taxes, and then they find out that like I own businesses. So then they want the finances of all the businesses, and there's a lot of businesses. And so then they ask for like the profit and loss statements and balance sheets of all of the businesses since 2020 January, because I haven't filed my 2020 taxes yet. So I think if I did that, they would only ask for 2021, but still, that was a major pain. I don't keep profit and loss and balance sheets for every single sub business we have. So a handful of things had to be done manually, and I had to just set aside like a handful of hours a couple of weekends ago just to kind of go through all of this, because it's just painful bookkeeping. Like, all the numbers are there. I just had to kind of put it into a format that they wanted it so I could send it to them, and I did sign it. And then sometimes I'd sign things that like, oh no, this one has to be wet signed. So then they'd reject it, and then I would have to reprint it out, or I'd print it out, sign it in wet ink, scan it, and upload. Like, very tedious, as opposed to just electronically signing documents. But they asked for my 2020 tax return, which doesn't exist, my 2019 tax return, which does exist. But then they asked for like 2018, even down to 2017. Tax return, W-2s, all my K-1s. 2017, that was 4 years ago. And mind you, our numbers are insane. Like, my credit card score, depending on which one you look at, but it's like 780 to 805 or so, depending on which one you look at. They have different scales, but the average ends up being about 800. And I had to unlock or unfreeze and refreeze my credit. They had to do this multiple times at the beginning for every single agency. And then again, right before you close, they have to recheck. So my credit score is fine. When they look at your income, it's not really their income as much as your debt to income ratio they look at. Now, remember, I refinanced my loans earlier this year, my student loans, and I refinanced them to a 5-year to get them down to like 1.9% on a variable. In doing that, my monthly payment went up a lot. It went up like maybe threefold. It's north of about $4,000, I think now, on my monthly payments. And so that definitely cuts into your debt to income ratio. But my income at this point, it's still relatively small. So the debt to income ratio from the loan. So I can handle this mortgage no problem. And I still had my other property also in my name. So technically, both of those 2 mortgages and my student loans, all of them were on my credit. And they were telling me my debt to income ratio was more than 50%, okay, which is just abominable. Like, no, it's nowhere near 50%, even including all of those things. But my salary structure is like, there's a base salary, but then I get a bonus distribution like every single month, which goes on as W-2 income. So when they're underwriting my income, they were only underwriting my base salary, which is relatively small. And I don't put my wife on mortgages if I don't have to, if it's going to go onto my name, we only put one person on a mortgage because we like to free up each person's credit space for mortgages when needed, or for refinances or student loans or whatever it is. If I can qualify for the best rate by myself, I'm going to do that. And so I wanted to go through this whole process by myself, if possible, with my finances. But yeah, they're like, your debt to income ratio is over 50%, and it's not. And I mean, if you use my full income, even with both mortgages and my student loans, were like well south of 20%. And in reality, my other house is rented out right now, and we have a tenant. So that one shouldn't actually even count toward my debt to income ratio, because that's an income generating property. So if you took that one off the books, then it's less than 10%. So our numbers were incredible. But then they wanted everything from all the businesses, because I guess ultimately they're concerned that, well, your business income might not be reproducible. But it doesn't even matter what my business income is, because my debt to income ratio is so low. But I guess they're also concerned that it could be a liability to my cash flow. So they wanted to show that my businesses are generating income and that they're going to continue generating income. I mean, and every time I give them some information, they would want to have more clarification on all the information. And one of my beefs with the website is that they don't have a place for me just to provide information, upload documents, and explain the documents a priori in advance of them asking me for it, because I know that as soon as I upload one thing, they're going to then ask me for something else. And I just want to get, like, if I'm sitting down doing documents for underwriting, I just want to sit down and get it all done. I don't want to have an hour every single day I need to spend to do this. I'd rather spend like 4 hours and just crank everything out. I can be a lot more efficient because I have everything in process. I'm in all my websites and all the bank accounts, everything. It's a lot easier to do everything all at once, as opposed to in staggered little bits and pieces. But anyway, we get through all the underwriting. Then once we have the final portion where they say that we have the approval to close, then I'm like, okay, let's just check one more time. What else are you guys going to do to my credit or ask for? Because you've asked for the same bank account statements over and over again. Like, am I allowed to, are you guys going to run my credit again, and when? And so, I got them on the phone like 4 days ago. They're like, okay, we're going to check your credit one more time right now. And they said which one they were going to use. I think it was Experian or maybe Equifax. I made sure that was unfrozen so they could run it. And then I was like, are you guys going to ask me to give you all my bank statements again and screenshots of my balances? And they said no. So that was great. And then we got to closing. And I had all the documents sent to me in advance. I used the same title agency I used for the previous closing. So he cut the price in half. It was like $3,000 for the whole cost for title, as opposed to like $6,000 or $7,000. And so at the end of the day, with the lender credit of like $9,000, they were able to get my closing costs down to like $200 out of pocket. And actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was on the phone with them, like complaining about how painful and long this is taking. And the guy said, okay, well, I can offer you $1,000 extra credit. So that actually also got included in there. Although technically I didn't get the full 1,000 because there's limits on to how much they can take off, but we were able to get into like 800 something bucks, which I was fine with. And I also was saying, this is taking so long. What if the interest rates go down in the meantime and I'm already locked in at the 3 1/8? The guy said that even if you're locked, this is like, I did not know this, even if you're locked and if it goes down by 0.25%, the federal 30-year mortgage rate, based on like the St. Louis website, you can just look up like St. Louis 30-year federal mortgage, and it gives you like a graph, and every week it's updated. If it goes down by 0.25% or more between when you locked and any current date, you can ask them to float down at no charge. At least that's what he told me on the phone. Now, I kept checking, and the mortgage rate had just basically wiggled back and forth around the same number. It had gone down maybe 1/10 of a point, but did not get down to 1/4 of a point. So ended up locking or refinancing at 3 1/8. But so we got that final closing disclosure. Only had to bring $200 to title on a personal check. We had my credit checked on Tuesday. They didn't ask for any more bank account statements. We were good to go. And then on Friday, both my wife and I, even though it's only my mortgage because we're in Texas community property state, both of us have to sign. So we both go to the title agency at 7:30 in the morning, sign everything. And this was my third time with a notary in a month and a half. And we refinanced. Okay. And so that is all taken care of. I think, and it was nice because it got done before the end of the month. So I still haven't actually made a mortgage payment to the first mortgage because that closed May 10. So the first mortgage payment was going to be due July 1st. But because it got paid off, my mortgage payment to my new mortgage is not going to be due until August the 1st. Now, Better Mortgage is part of the reason why they're so cheap, I guess. I mean, I don't honestly know how they really make that much money because their rates tend to be as good as they can get. Like I talked to the person at Title and he had also just refinanced with Better because they had the best rates, because he looks at loan documents every single day and goes through closings and closings and closings. And he sees what everybody's getting from every bank, and Better had the best rates, at least here in Texas. And especially for jumbo mortgages here, nobody could beat these rates. I know in some other places, people are getting like 2.75% on jumbos. I think like in California, I've seen people saying that on 30-year fixed mortgages at 80% loan to value, but not here in Texas, not right now. So it's still fine. It was 0.5% down, but it ended up costing me no money out of pocket with the lender credits, and I'm still getting the $6,000 AmEx credit. Okay, so now I was still a little bit skeptical that I might not get it. Okay, because you can fill something out, but until the money shows up in my bank account, I'm not really sure. However, if I go to my actual closing documents, now my closing documents have a separate section. Okay, and I'm pulling that right here. And you can see in section H, which is miscellaneous, it says AmEx credit paid by Better, $6,000 in the right corner. Okay, and that $6,000 is going to come to me in 8 to 12 weeks. I got an email after closing that said that it will post in my statement in 8 to 12 weeks. So I'm pretty confident because it's literally on the closing disclosure document. The closing disclosure is your final document that says that you are the transaction numbers for the sale or refinance of the property. And you can see here under total closing costs, on the bottom it says lender credits, $8,868. So basically I have $9,000 of lender credits in addition to the $6,000 from AmEx. So my total closing costs were negative $4,100. So basically that money just got applied to my principal on the mortgage. And I just wrote the check for $200 because some of the closing costs can't be basically eliminated by your credits. You still have to bring some cash to close. But this was a personal check. I didn't need to send a wire or get a cashier's check or anything like that, at least not from my title agency, which is just half a mile away or so. And so there it is on the closing disclosure. And then I got an email afterwards. So I'm pretty confident I'm going to get the $6,000. I don't know when. And I don't know if, I'm assuming if this says on the account balance, and I don't usually have that much money on my AmEx personally, or that I maintain as a balance. I don't carry any balance on it, but I would assume I could just ask them to write me a check to refund me the balance I have on my account once that posts, or at least maybe a month later or so once the that credit card monthly cycle is completed. So there you go. That was the process. It took, honestly, I think we started May 17 and we closed on Friday, June 25. So it was a month and a week. Part of the delay was me when I was dealing with, I know, some other stuff with our big apartment complex, our fund. I had to take a week off of dealing with this stuff. But it was still over a month long to refinance. But getting the appraiser there was actually pretty easy. So this could have happened a lot faster, but man, all the business stuff they wanted for everything, and because of the size of the loan, the underwriting is so stiff. Now, I'm sure if you're getting a conventional mortgage and your income is just regular W-2 income with no other businesses and you don't own other properties. Oh, speaking of which, while we're waiting through this month, I sold my condo from Michigan, my first rental property. And so then that had disappeared off of my credit. And so when we went through this double check of all of our credit stuff, they call all the people, banks who you have lines of credit with to verify your balances and that you're in good standing. They're like, no, there's no more balance here. Like, oh, what happened to it? And then they're like, well, where did the money come from that you paid for it? Like, I sold the property. Then, even though I sent them like all the closing documents, they're like, well, I need to see where it actually posted onto your bank account to see, because it closed. I have multiple bank accounts, and I don't want to show them every single bank account. And so then the money went to like a different bank account, and then it got transferred. And so then I had to show them the deposit of the wire. And luckily they didn't ask me to show the entire bank statement of that whole month for what that account, because then they would have said, well, where's this bank account coming from? Then I would have showed them more financials. But fortunately they took that because they wanted to make sure I didn't take cash out of my own pocket to pay off the mortgage, which would decrease my liquidity and my cash reserves, even though my cash reserves are like well in excess of a year of mortgage payments. Like, we're so far away from whatever your limits are, but they still just need to fill in every single box. It's unbelievable. So all that got done. If you have much simpler finances, W-2 income, non-jumbo mortgage, no other rental properties, honestly, this is probably super easy because you just upload things to their website. It's a lot better than emailing people your documents, and it gives you itemized sections like upload this, upload this, upload this, upload this, all one at a time, which makes it a lot easier just to match stuff up and just upload them, better than a lot of other websites I've seen and used for financial stuff. But I mean, this is what you expect from a company that's literally online only. But yeah, the process was not fast. The guy was telling me, well, you're locked in until July 16th, so it's going to happen by then. I'm like, no, dude, this is like 2 weeks ago. We already had appraisal done on June the 1st, and you guys had my taxes back to 2017. Like, we are not waiting till July 16th to close this out. Part of the reason is I did not have a key to my own apartment that I've been in since we moved out of our house a month, 3 weeks ago. So I literally haven't been able to access the building. There is a door that you don't need a key for, but then I didn't have a key to my own door. Haven't been able to park my car in the garage. I've been parking on the street because when we applied for the apartment, they made us both, anybody who's like an adult going to live there they have to each apply separately, which means background check, credit check, but the credit check's a hard pull. Like, I don't know why they can't get away with a soft pull for this. Especially if my wife can get approved financially for the lease by herself. Like, how does my credit really even matter if she's the one paying for it? And I could pay for the entire lease in cash, but that still didn't matter. It's required me to apply. But if I had another hard pull, then that would have upset the bank and I wouldn't be able to refinance, or they have to explain that, and then it could drop my credit score, and then I might not qualify for the rate I was at because of yet another hard pull on my credit within a shorter period of time, because I just bought the house and I just refied the house, and this would be a third thing. And then they're like, oh, well, you're applying for an apartment, and now they're going to add that to my debt to income ratio. Then they're going to say, how much is the rent? Then you say, send me a copy of the lease. So I've been just basically like visiting our apartment for the past 3 weeks. So Friday, after I met with the notary, signed and closed, then I went to the leasing office, went through that, got the whole application, did all of that. They did the background check, everything. Then yesterday, I was able to get keys to the garage, clicker, and the keys to my apartment yesterday, because I can actually use my money and my credit again. So thankfully, that's all taken care of. And that's done. Officially, probably won't really be done until maybe Monday when the account completely closes and completely reopens. I don't know what day it'll be formally complete. But that is what it is. It's completed. If you are refinancing, because rates are lower than they have been, like, I don't know, a year ago, they're not as low as they were like in February or so. But if you are refinancing, I would check with Better when you're rate shopping. I would check with Better. I've heard Ally also has really good rates. I would also look at physician mortgages. I used a physician mortgage company a year ago or 2 years ago when I refinanced our previous house. That process was way easier because when you're doing a physician mortgage, these are portfolio loans and they're used to looking at physician numbers, and their underwriting tends to be a lot more lax because your default rate on your own residence as a physician, especially with 2 doctors, it should literally be approaching like 0.1%. It's so low. And that's all comers, irrespective of your numbers. So I've heard numbers as low as 0.3% for a physician alone. So I would assume with 2 doctors, it should be less than half of that. But that is ultimately the process I had to go through with a regular mortgage. Check it out. With the $6,000 AmEx credit, made it worth it. If I didn't have the $6,000 AmEx credit, I would have been pretty. I would have maybe considered refinancing with the physician mortgage instead. I had already gotten this far into the process, and I was like, okay. I shot out to the physician mortgage company. I said, well, what are your rates at right now? He said 3 1/8 also. I said, okay, well, let me just see where we are here. And then this AmEx thing came up. So I just I didn't want to start all over again. I already had appraisal done and everything. So if I did it with another company, they might have required another appraisal. And I was not in the position to get another appraisal with the house now being in a state of like the Coliseum, which I just found out yesterday. The Coliseum now, for the first time, like in 2,000 plus years, they've opened up the basement. I forget the name of it, but that's where the gladiators and the animals would stay before fighting. We were just there at the Coliseum last January, before COVID, a year and a half ago. But went to the Coliseum, and little do we know that COVID was going to happen. But yeah, now they've opened up the bottom, so now I want to go back again and check that place out because it's absolutely amazingness. Okay, so 38 minutes already. Handful of people in here. Are there any questions? I have not been here for a long time. I apologize. Okay. I have to do a bunch more episodes because I have a bunch of things to talk about, but that will be it for this one. Episode 190 about refinancing, in particular, the process with Better, and this $6,000 AmEx credit I look forward to getting. When I post my credit card, I'll post it in the Facebook group so you can see it for proof. It looks like the promotion will be going on for a while, which is good. The rates really, for a lot of places, they can't be beat. Other places, they may be similar to others. So do your due diligence, do your shopping, check it out, and good luck. Thank you, Facebook user. I appreciate the comment. Have a good night. Again, none of this is financial, legal advice, accounting, or anything other than for my own and hopefully your entertainment. For your Sundays, have a good one.